The smell is the one thing, I guess, that a lot of people get hung up on. I like it a lot. I could probably sit there and sniff it like a weirdo in the back of my shop. You just finished assembling your latest woodworking project, and for whatever reason you need some wood filler. And that could be a lot of different reasons, like you used nails or screws and you need to cover up the holes. You have exposed plywood end grain that you want to paint over without using expensive edge banding. You could have used a type of wood, like oak, that has a very open grain and needs to be filled. Or just simply the material you used has some cracks, voids, or defects that you want to smooth out before you finish. Whatever the reason is, in this video I'm going to give you a lightning fast review of some of the most popular wood fillers and what I think about them in 7 different categories and which I would pick overall. My fellow Craftswrights, before we get started on this review, if you're not already subscribed, I'd ask you to please consider doing so. And if you end up liking this sort of lightning fast review, let me know in the comments below so I can try to make a few more of them every now and then. Now, that being said, we're going to get started on the 7 different categories. The first category is spreadability, how easy the product is to spread on the material itself, in the end grain, in cracks, in voids, in pinholes, etc. First up is the DAP Drydex spackle, the pink stuff that looks like icing, kind of spreads like icing. It's beautiful. This stuff spreads so well with a putty knife and with your finger that it's a crime. You'll find out later why it's a crime, but this spreads beautifully. Second is going to be the Famo wood. Spreads great, especially with a putty knife. Gets into all the nooks and crannies very, very well. Timbermate is a close second to the Famo wood. They're relatively similar. I put the wood glue and wood sawdust kind of in the middle because it's wood glue. You can move it around very quickly. It's very liquidy. Also, depending on how much sawdust you add or don't add, you can adjust the viscosity of it and how easy it is to spread. Bondo, it's tricky. Bondo spreads just about as well as these other ones, but because of the drying time on it, the kick time, you only have about 5 minutes before it starts clumping up on you. It knocks it down a few pegs. If it wasn't for that, this would probably be near the top of the list. DAP plastic wood in the solvent form, yes, I understand it's upside down, but this is where the top of the lid is, so it feels weird putting the lid at the bottom. Spreads not very good. It clumps up, it falls off, it doesn't adhere to the wood itself very well. I did not find this a joy to spread. Same with the solvent or water-based version of it. This was actually worse. I'm sure you could add a little bit of water to it or heat it up to change the viscosity maybe, but this was a pain in the butt and I don't ever want to spread it again. The next bit is sandability, how easy the product is to sand. The tricky thing with this is these 5 right here are all relatively similar. It's these 2 that set themselves apart and not in a good way. So real quick, the spackling, very easy to sand, very messy and powdery though, so definitely have dust collection and a respirator on. Famo wood is a pleasure to sand, probably my favorite to sand out of these. The Timbermate, also pretty good. The solvent-based, also pretty good. The water-based plastic wood by DAP, decent. Bondo, you're gonna have to put some elbow grease into it and definitely start at a lower grit, like maybe a 60 or an 80, and then work yourself up from there. The wood glue and sawdust. If you have ever tried to sand wood glue, you know the stuff is as hard as a brick bat. You're gonna need to bust out a 40 grit flap disc on an angle grinder to really break it down unless you get it very smooth before sanding through your regular grits. Next up is Tintability, how easy it is to add color to the product and try to get it to match the material you're putting it on as close as possible. Number 1 on that list is going to be the Timbermate. Reason being, it's water-based, so you can add any sort of water-based dye to it, and the product in natural is pretty much white. It's really, 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 really light colored. So very easy. You're starting off with a very clean slate. The Famo wood is a very close second in terms of water-based product. You can use dyes. The only difference is the natural on this is a little bit yellower. Think birch plywood as opposed to white glue. White glue, birch plywood. Then we get to actual white glue. Now I put this a little lower because depending on what sort of sawdust you're adding to it, that's automatically going to tint it and make it a little bit closer to what you're putting it on if you're using sawdust from that piece of work. But you can still add a little bit of dye to it and try to change it. When we get into the plastic wood products and the spackle and Bondo, they're all kind of in the same boat. Again, they're a little bit lumped together in the bad end of things. I haven't tried to tint this stuff. It's a little bit lighter in color, so I imagine it could be tinted with water-based dyes. I haven't tried because I'm not really a big fan. The solvent-based plastic wood by DAP, I'm sure you would have to use some sort of solvent-based dye. And when you get into solvents, mixing solvents and VOCs and all that other stuff and Illuminati, it's not a good time, so I probably wouldn't recommend trying to tint this. The spackle comes pink, so I have no idea how you would tint that and not screw up the color changing aspect of it, or just lock in the pink maybe. Plus you're starting with a pink base, that's kind of hard to tint. Bondo is gray. I know you can tint it because usually well, not with Bondo, but some of the other similar products, the catalyst for it is red. You're adding red to gray and you can actually see the color change. But again, you're starting with a gray base. I have no clue what sort of tint you could add to it, if dyes would work and what sort of dyes would work. On top of that, the working time with this is so short, I don't think it would be worth it trying to experiment and lock in a color, because once you got that color locked in, the stuff's dry, hardened on your mixer, and you have to start all over again. This is the way to go. Fourth on our list is going to be durability, how well the product will stand up over time after it's been applied and dried. Top of that list is going to be wood glue and sawdust. Very durable stuff wood glue is. If you've ever used it, it's tough as nails. Bondo, used in the automotive industry, is also pretty strong. You're going to have a hard time marring it. Famo wood for a water-based wood filler, I'm actually very surprised by. I had a hard time digging a nail in and gouging it. Same with the Timbermate, this was pretty good as well, but Famo wood beats it out just a little bit. The solvent-based plastic wood by DAP, you're starting to get into that kind of dusty, chalky range. Same with the plastic, or the water-based plastic wood by DAP. And then when you get into the spackle, it's spackle. It's not durable at all. It's pretty much just like ground up chalk in stasis on top of your piece. If you look at it the wrong way, it's just gonna off into the distance. The next category of cost was a little harder to quantify, mainly because I wanted to do a dollar per ounce breakdown, but depending upon where you purchase the items, price will vary, and also how much of the item you purchase, price will vary as well. For instance, the DAP plastic wood water-based will be cheaper the larger the quantity you buy, same with the wood glue. But the other thing with the wood glue is we're adding a product to it. We're adding sawdust from the material that we've been working on, which dilutes that and changes that dollar per ounce variable or ratio. So regardless, I broke it down with the sizes I have here, and this is what I came up with. The cheapest was the DAP water-based wood filler at 31 cents per ounce. Next is the DAP Drydex color changing spackle at 36 cents per ounce. Followed by the Bondo, which this one kind of surprised me. I thought it would be more expensive, but it only works out to be 46 cents per ounce. The wood glue, 49 cents per ounce. This is for Type Bond 3. Type Bond 2 is probably a little bit cheaper, and also if you buy the gallon of glue, it's going to be cheaper, especially if you already have it hanging around. The solvent-based plastic wood by DAP was 55 cents per ounce. The Timbermate is a really good buy. You would think it's a really good buy, actually. When you break it down per ounce, it's a little bit deceiving. It's 56 cents per ounce. The Famo wood, I haven't looked to see if you can get this in a larger amount. I would imagine you can, and I have my fingers crossed that you can, because I really like this stuff. But it may not be my favorite. You'll find out soon. And at this size, it's $1.64 per ounce. Kind of one of those, you get what you pay for things. And finally, everyone's favorite category, bunk. VOCs, volatile chemicals, chemicals that they put in there that'll melt your brain. Or if they don't have any chemicals in there that'll melt your brain because they're water-based, what kind of chemicals did they put in there that smell like butthole? This is the category that's all about smells. So, ironically, the stuff that looks like icing, spreads like icing, kind of smells like icing. This was the most pleasing to me. And obviously this category is gonna be subjective. Some people are gonna like some smells, some won't. Honestly, I like the smell of high VOC stuff. I grew up in a sign shop, so it's kind of ingrained in me, but I know that this stuff is horrible for you, so I try to avoid it as much as I can. Famo wood, very, very light scent. What there is kind of nice. Wood glue, smells like glue. It smells a little stronger than these two, but it's not bad at all. The DAP, also water-based, not much of a smell to it, not terrible to handle. This is a tricky one, because if you read the reviews about this stuff, everyone hates the way it smells. They all say it smells like turpentine or Band-Aids. I kind of agree with that, but I like the smell of Band-Aids, as weird as that sounds. Just put that on a t-shirt. I like the smell of Band-Aids. And it also kind of smells like really high-end salon, either hair dye or conditioner. So imagine those three, and some people have said Play-Doh. So imagine those four together. Play-Doh, Band-Aids, really high-end salon conditioner or color, and turpentine. I actually like the way it smells. It is a little funky and it's kind of a strong smell, but I like it. Bondo, very strong smell, lots of VOCs. Actually, I don't know how many VOCs there are, but it definitely smells like there's a fair amount of them. Again, it's one of those things that I actually kind of like it, but I know it's bad for me and I need to wear a respirator, so I try to avoid it. Same with the plastic, wood, the solvent-based stuff. It has solvents in it, which means it's gonna smell funky. It's also gonna melt your brain if you breathe too much of it. Funk. Before I tell you exactly which one is my favorite and which one I'm gonna try to use the most of going forward, I'm gonna do a little quick rundown of them again, going over their merits, pros and cons, drawbacks, etc. You'll probably figure out which one I like just from me doing this, but in case not, stick around, you'll find out. Timbermate, relatively inexpensive, very bright white color, so easy to tint, spreads pretty good, smell, some people hate it, some people love it. It's very polarizing. Durability is okay. DAP, do not like this stuff, the water-based. It spreads like crap, it's very not durable. There's no smell to it, and it's really cheap, but the sawdust and glue thing, this is really tricky because everyone knows you can mix the sawdust that you've been using or creating with the project you're working on with glue and patch a hole real quick, and it's kind of hard to tell that it's there. But over a long area or a large area, I wouldn't recommend this. Famo wood, I like this stuff, spreads really well, color is good, tintable, no real smell, fairly durable. Bondo, if you have a high use area like the corner of a piece that broke off and you're trying to repair it, this is probably what I would recommend because it's the strongest out of all of them. The plastic wood by DAP, the solvent-based stuff, I can see why this is a favorite of a lot of cabinet makers because it's very, very quick. It dries super fast. So if I only had a couple pinholes and I didn't have a tiny shop where the slightest cracking of a VOC full can kind of knocks me out for a day, I would use this stuff more often. It's very great for a quick pinch sort of scenario. The dry deck spackling, it's beautiful. It looks like candy. I want to eat it. I'm not going to, but I guess in a quick pinch it would work, but it's probably not what I would recommend. We're all looking for the magic silver bullet unicorn wood filler, right? And before I tell you which one I think is my favorite and closest to being the magic silver bullet unicorn wood filler, it'd be fun if you let me know down in the comments which one you think I'm gonna say. Why? Well, it's just kind of fun that way. That being said, Famo wood. It's my favorite, the water-based stuff. I haven't tried the solvent-based, but if you listen to the funk part of this, you'll understand why I haven't tried it. I hope I can get this in a larger size because $1.60 per ounce is a little expensive, but even if I can't, I probably will continue to use this out of the others. Now, they all have their pros and cons. I'm not saying that they're all crap and this is the king, king of the mountain. King of the Misty Mountain? King under the mountain. But this has been my favorite to use so far. It spreads crazy easy. The color is really nice. It's tintable. It doesn't smell bad at all. I've actually used just my fingers to spread it around, almost like finger painting, which is really enjoyable and therapeutic, but it was nice. I like this stuff a lot, and it's hard to gouge my finger into it. It doesn't flake off and turn into when you look at it. I think this is the way to go. If you haven't tried it, try it. Probably my close second is going to be the Timbermate. Very similar, just this is very white, so it's not going to blend in at all unless you tint it. The smell is the one thing, I guess, that a lot of people get hung up on. I like it a lot. I could probably sit there and sniff it like a weirdo in the back of my shop. Other people have been regulated to their basement or their garage because their wives couldn't stand the smell of it from what I've read in the reviews. I like it. So, number one. Number two. If I had to pick a number three, I would probably say this stuff, but only on the condition that this is used in a pinch, in small numbers, in a well-ventilated shop. Bondo would probably be number four. Guess I should put these in order. Bondo would be number four just because of how crazy durable it is. The working time on it sucks. We already know where this is. You already know where that's going. These two are the tough ones to pick between because there's really no good use for either of them. This is great for tiny little holes or cracks where you can't paint over them or hide your crimes. This is the closest you can get to hiding your crimes with actual wood. I would imagine this one, if you just had to quickly fill the end grain on a piece of plywood before you painted it, this could work pretty well, but in a high use area, I wouldn't trust it because you bump into it and you're gonna dent the edge of your plywood. We also live in a time where I feel like I have to state that I have not been sponsored by any of these companies. I have a project that I screwed up on royally, and I had to go out and find a wood filler that I liked. So I ended up buying all of these with my own money, trying them out, and this was the one that I will be coming back to probably again and again and again until I find something better, if something better even exists. To me, this is the magic silver bullet unicorn wood filler. For those of you on your journey trying to find the wood filler that you like, I hope you found this video helpful. And if you did, it would be extremely helpful for me for you to hit that like button, maybe share it with a friend, and definitely subscribe. It costs nothing to you, but it helps out this tiny little channel more than you can imagine. Now, if you're looking for more stuff to watch from the Craftswright channel, you can check out either one of these videos here, and then there should be a subscribe button right about there. I hope you have a great one and keep up the good work. Out of all 7 of these, 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There are 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and there's 7 categories. What?